Hello, welcome back to my Terraforming Mars strategy guide on YouTube. Today is episode 4 Synergies part 2, and today we're going to talk about what I think is the strongest type of synergy in the game, and that is card draw plus card discount. I think after the first video I made, a lot of people got the impression that I only care about mega credit production and stuff like this, and that's probably my fault, but no. This is where it's at. This is really good. If you have just a little bit of money income, but then on the other hand you have a lot of card draw, you have a lot of card discount, this is how you can go GODMODE. It's way stronger than getting mega credit production. In episode 16 part 1, which is a game I played on the Mars app, I called it the power of card draw. This is like a perfect example of what you can do with card draw plus card discount. I didn't have a lot of money income that game, but I still went GODMODE. So in this video I'm gonna do my best to explain to you why I think this type of synergy is so good, card draw plus card discount. Then we're also gonna look at a Theorycraft deck we talked about a little bit in the last video, but today we're gonna go all in and talk about this deck, because this deck is like GODMODE made into a starting hand. It got so much card draw, so much card discount, and a little bit of money income, and it's very strong. So in the first video I gave this little bit of a weird statement that I think the value of discount cards is squared, meaning that if you have 2 discount cards like Earth Catapult, then it's like worth 4 mega credit production. If you have 3 discount on all cards, it's like worth 9 mega credit production, and if you have 4 discount of cards, it's worth 16 mega credit production. Obviously this is not strictly true, there's no math to back this up, but it's just the mindset of the more discount cards you could actually stack, the better. So for instance, if you have Earth Catapult and Anti-Gravity Technology, then you have a discount of 4 on all cards, so this is kinda sort of 16 mega credit production, but it's kind of impossible to evaluate because it depends on so many things, right? It depends strictly on how many cards you play per generation. For example, if you play exactly 4 cards in a generation, well then it is exactly 16 mega credit production, right? But I would argue that if you're having a good game, so in the mid to late game especially, this is gonna be way better than 16 mega credit production. So this is also where the card draw element really comes in, because you need card draw to get the best effect of these discounts. And it makes sense, right? Because cards are just so efficient if they're 4 cheaper, so you just need as many cards as humanly possible. So why am I saying that discount on cards actually stacks kinda sort of exponentially? Because the math I just laid out here doesn't really support that. The thing is, if you're getting this much discount, maybe more than likely you also have even more discount on space tags, for example. A lot of cards, you would never consider to play these cards, but if you have so much discount, all of a sudden these cards are available plays to you. So the point I'm trying to make here is that if you have a lot of discount, then all of a sudden these kind of bad cards that you wouldn't normally buy out of the 4 cards in the research phase, cards you would normally maybe sell or something, all of a sudden these cards become good. Especially if we're talking about space tags, because there's so many cards in this game that actually make space tags cheaper. Later in this video we're gonna look at a game where I literally have 17 discount on space tags. And like I mentioned, in the mid to late game, I would argue that Earth Catapult and Anti-Gravity Technology is worth a lot more than 16 mega credit production, just because in the mid to late game, if you have a lot of card draw, you will be playing a lot more than 4 cards in the last few generations. And like I mentioned before, discount on cards, this is the special juice you need when you are going GODMODE. So the game on the Mars app I talked about before, this is a starting hand I had, and as you can see I have a lot of card draw, I have a lot of mega credit. It's kind of a good hand, but it's not GODMODE, because what am I missing? I'm missing card discount. I have a little bit of Terrac, I have mass converter, but it's not enough. I'm really missing that special juice, which is card discount, but I'm getting it pretty early in this game, so this is why this game ends up being so good. So real quick, like I mentioned in the last episode, this is the best starting hand in existence. I believe this is the best starting hand you can have ever. However, this is some user-made cards, so we're not going to talk about today. We're going to talk about this hand, and to be fair, this is entirely Theorycraft. I didn't actually have this starting hand. This is only me Theorycrafting. What is the best possible hand you can have? So why is this hand not as good as the other one where you use user-made card? Simply because there's a little bit more card draw in the other hand, and also they have Death Ride, and Death Ride is like Vita, but even better. But this hand is of course still absolutely broken, and I'm going to show you why. So there are actually 3 reasons why I decided to make this part 2. The first reason is that out of an entire chapter about synergy, I kinda didn't feel like I talked enough about the best synergy in the game in my opinion, which is this card draw plus card discount. The second reason is that while we talked a little bit about this hand in this previous video, I didn't really explain to you why this hand is so good. And the third reason is I actually tried this in a solo game and I was like, oh, it is completely broken. So I'm gonna show you guys, because it's actually a lot of fun. So even though this is Theorycraft and you can argue, well, it has very little to do with real Terraforming Mars, because obviously you cannot choose your starting hand, there's still a lot of the important concepts that you can apply in your own game of Terraforming Mars. If you will, this is just like an enhanced example where it goes completely God mode, just so I can show you what this can actually do when you get the synergy up and running. The only weakness of this deck is that the first couple of generations are kind of slow, you can't really do much, but that doesn't really matter because by generation 4 you're still gonna go God mode. But a way you can address this issue of having a slow start is just to remove AI Central and corporate archives, and then you can substitute these with supply drops and advanced allies. And actually I think this is gonna be a little bit better because you're gonna have a way better generation 1 and 2, and then you can start the snowball a lot sooner, and you can go God mode maybe in generation 3 instead of generation 4. But then you are of course losing AI Central, and I think AI Central drew me like 8 cards in the game that I'm about to show you, so it's not like the end of the world, but you're also losing 1 science tag. So that science tag is pretty important so you can play anti-gravity technology. But to be honest, this is not a problem at all because all of this stuff that you're playing before you're playing anti-gravity technology, just by playing this stuff you will draw like 30 cards, so one of these cards is gonna be a science tag. It's not a problem. But that being said, today we are gonna stick with AI Central plus corporate archives because it's a little bit prettier that your starting hand has everything you need to play anti-gravity technology. Alright, but let's break down this starting hand. Why is this so completely overpowered? First of all, I said this before, but I think these are the 3 best card draw cards you can have: Mars University, Olympus Conference, and Spin-off Department. And we have all of the 3 cards in this opening hand. So the arrows here are like pinpointing to all of the stuff that gives card draw. So as you can see, it's quite a lot. So we also got corporate archives and AI Central. And then we got High Tech Lab, and this card is also really good, especially if you have quantum extract and mass converter. So you've got 10 energy production. So every generation, it's gonna be a little less than this because you also want to trade and stuff like this. But you can tutor like 7 cards and just take one of these cards. It's really good. Kind of the same effect as corporate archives. So if you look at it that way, it's like really good. And then we also got Point Luna, which is also perfect, obviously, because you're drawing a card every time you play an Earth tag. So just to give you a frame of reference, in the game I'm about to show you, it's gonna be only 7 generations, but in those 7 generations, Point Luna is gonna draw me 30 cards. Spin-off Department, where you get a card every time you play a card with 20 plus cost, that's also gonna draw me 30 cards. I believe Mars University is also gonna allow me to rotate 30 cards, so it's completely insane. Just compare that to AI Central, which is a lot more expensive than Mars University. AI Central only gives me like 8 cards. This is why if you are gonna cut anything from this deck, I believe it should be AI Central, which kind of sounds crazy, I know. And also an important thing to realize about all this card draw is that they kind of boosting each other. What I mean is, like, if you're playing so many cards, naturally you're gonna see more science tags, you're gonna see more earth tags. So the more card draw you have, the better Point Lunar is, the better Mars University is, the better Olympus Conference is. So if you're able to stack card draw like I'm doing here, this is gonna make all the card draw cards like exponentially better, especially the card draw cards which has an effect like Point Lunar, Spin-off Department, Olympus Conference, Mars University. All of these are drawing you a card based off of something. So if you're going God mode, if you're having a really good game, this is like way more impactful than actually AI Central, because AI Central is an action. You can only do that once per generation. So these arrows here are looking at the card discounter. Like we talked about, Earth Catapult and AI Gravity Technology, just this by itself is insane. Then we also got Quantum Extractor, Mass Converter, and Valley Trust. Already now we have 8 discount on space tags. And the effect of Valley Trust, where you get 2 discount on science tags, is not like the biggest deal in the world, but on this hand there's already a lot of science tags, so it makes a lot of sense. It's gonna give me a lot of value. So this is what I mean. This is like 90% of the hand. It's card discount and it's card draw. So there are actually only 2 cards we haven't talked about yet, and that's Veto and Orbital Cleanup. And these 2 is just to get a little bit of money income, because card draw and card discount, that is the major component of this, but you also need a little bit of money income to actually get the full effect. It makes sense, right? So if you're going God mode, Veto is insane. In the end of this video I'm gonna show you like some stats based on this game I'm about to show you, and Veto seriously just generated me 222 mega credit during 7 generations. And Orbital Cleanup I think is also a necessity in this deck, because with all this science tag we're gonna get, Orbital Cleanup can give you a lot of mega credits. And also I have the nerf tag, and also it's very cheap to play just because I have so much discount on space tags and Veto. So let's actually look at the card discount real quick. So these are the 4 cards with card discount I already chose to have in my deck, and I also want to put some special attention to these 5 cards. I really hope that I would pick these 5 cards up like randomly at the start of the game. I ended up getting Skydogs, so that's kind of good, but that's only 1 out of 5. And then way later I got Media Group, and that's a little bit too late. But the reason Media Group and Optimal Arrow Breaking is so good is because it's not only discount, they actually give you stuff. And you might be thinking, well, that's practically the same, isn't it? But it's not quite, because you're having a lot of discount on space tags, and then you play some of these cheap space tags. Instead of it just being you can play it for 0, then you actually get 3 mega credit when you play a space tag. So what I'm trying to say is when you're going full god mode, actually playing cards which ends up giving you stuff, that's really good. This is also the whole reason I think meat industries is so good when you're going god mode. This can like generate you so much gold. And then finally, before we look at the game, I just wanted to mention these cards that just straight up give you stuff. It's like the same idea. It's really strong to just get stuff, especially when you're going god mode. So the game I'm about to show you, I kind of played this deck like twice, but the first time I only played the first like 3 generations, because in generation 3 I was going god mode, and that's when I decided, alright, this is crazy, man. I have to like just restart this and just take some pictures and like document this stuff for you guys, because this is completely insane. So this is why I restarted and then I went for it again. But in the first game I actually went kind of god mode in generation 3. The reason the first game was better is that I picked up indentured workers and mineral deposit in the first or the second generation, and that just, it makes me like get the snowball going like 1 generation before. So I just wanted to mention these cards. These cards are really good. So here we go. Let me show you how this deck can go absolutely god mode in 4 generations. And keep in mind, this is not like a normal game where you start with effectively 20 mega credit production because you have 20 TR. No, this is like a solo game, so I only have 14 TR, and then I have -2 mega credit production to start the game with. But even that doesn't really matter much, because I'm still gonna go god mode on generation 4, so this really hammers home the point I'm trying to make before, that it's not all about mega credit. Like, worth noting, there's no mega credit production in this starting hand. I have like 2 from spin-off department, 1 from new partner, and that's pretty much it. Then later on I'm even gonna lose 2 mega credit production again by playing orbital cleanup. So how on earth is it mathematically possible to go god mode on generation 4 when I only have this little resources to begin with? So this is like the end of generation 1, and as you can see, I didn't really do much. I just played spin-off department and then also played heavy taxation. And if you're wondering, the 2 cards I ended up keeping from corporate archives, out of the 7 cards I kept heavy taxation and energy market. And heavy taxation, that's just a feel good card at this point. It gives me 2 mega credit production and 1 mega credit for free, kind of, and then it's an earth tax, so it doesn't really cost me a card because I'm just gonna draw another card, so it's just a feel good card at this point. And energy market does absolutely nothing for me right now, but in generation 3 I believe I get mass converter, quantum extractor, so at that point it's gonna give me like 8 mega credits every generation. Still kinda good. Of course these 2 cards could have been something better or something even more impactful, but you know, you get 7 cards, I'll just pick the 2 best here. And now get ready for the lamest thing you've seen all day. So this is the end of generation 1. So now I'm gonna show you the end of generation 2. You ready? Voila, absolutely nothing happened. I simply just passed the generation. I did nothing. So I only get 17 mega credits. I can't really do much, to be honest. And of course the other reason I pass is that I want to play Earth Catapult now. And Earth Catapult by itself doesn't really do anything. So if I'm not planning to play something after Earth Catapult, it's actually better to wait a generation, because theoretically I could have just top decked Earth Office or Conscription or something like this. So if that had happened and I already played Earth Catapult in generation 2, I would have been really salty. So this is why it's technically correct to only play Earth Catapult the moment you plan on using the discount effect, the moment you plan on playing something else after Earth Catapult. And now let's see the change from the end of generation 2 to the end of generation 3, and now stuff is beginning to happen. So now we're getting somewhere. I could play Earth Catapult, Quantum Extractor, Mass Converter, and that also meant that I could finally play this energy market, so I can transform 1 energy production into 8 gold, which is really good for me right now. And then of course this is also the time to play Mars University and Olympus Conference. I believe I played these before I played Quantum Extractor, Mass Converter. This is also a good time to play Orbital Cleanup, because I have a lot of science tags now, and also this card with all the discount I just played is actually kind of cheap. And seriously, look at the discount here in Mars University, for instance. Mars University cost exactly 1 because of Earth Catapult, Valley Trust and Vitor, and the Olympus Conference only cost me 3 mega credits, and it also has an Earth tag, so it also draws me a card. So you can already see the synergy really starting to take form here. And then also picked up some random pretty good cards here, and like I'm saying, when you're drawing this many cards, you are bound to find something, some random cards that are really good for you. So in this case, Lunar Governor, kind of cool because it has 2 Earth tags, so it draws me 2 cards with Point Luna. And then I got Interplanetary Colony Shift, also a very good card at this point because I already have a lot of space tag discount. And now I finally got my energy up and running, so this means that I'm actually able to trade in the next generation. So now stuff is finally happening on the map. So like you can see, I put it on Ceres, and that's because I really want to trade on Ceres next generation, and that's gonna give me a lot. So these are the 3 random colonies I got. Pluto, Ceres, kinda cool. Titan is gonna be completely useless. So now let's look at the transition from end of generation 3 to end of generation 4. And worth noting, in generation 4, this is the first generation where I'm actually trading, so I'm also getting an extra trade fleet, so this means that I'm trading on Ceres and on Pluto. So look at this jump here, seriously. End of generation 3, and now look at end of generation 4. Wow. This is what I mean when I say that I feel like generation 4, this is where I've truly gone God mode. I mean, this is just beautiful. So I really hope this nails home the point that I'm trying to make today, that this card draw plus card discount combo, that is so insanely good. Because once again, remember, I started this game only having 14 TR and -2 mega credit production. So I started the game effectively only having access to 12 mega credits every generation, and that's nothing. So going from that to this in only 4 generations, that is completely insane. So some of the cool stuff I got in this generation, I picked up Warp Drive and Skydogs. This is like maybe the best cards I picked up right now. Also Advanced Allies was a big one. And then I got Luna Metropolis, and you might be thinking, oh man, you're so lucky you got these cards. But the thing is, at this point I already drew like 100 cards. So I think this game was like average. It's not like I was insanely lucky. This is just quite simply how this deck is gonna play out every single time. You can try it yourself if you want to. Yeah, I'm sure you're gonna get it just as good as a game as this one. So just to give you a little bit of fun stats right now when we are halfway through the game. At this point, Mars University already allowed me to cycle 15 cards. Point Luna allowed me to draw 22 cards, and Spin-off Department has drawn me 8 cards. And then thanks to the 2 cards I just picked up, like Warp Drive and Skydogs, now I have 13 discount on space tags. So let's see what happened from end of generation 3 to end of generation 4 on the map. So this is the first generation where I actually traded. So as you can see, I traded on Ceres and Pluto. Ceres was like really good because I ended up giving, I think, spaceport colonies. So I have actually 2 colonies in Ceres right now. So if you couple that with the fact that I also picked up Advanced Allies, that's like effectively 30 buying power I'm getting here if I can use all of this steel. So this is why I really wanted to get a double colony in Ceres instead of Pluto. It might look a little bit weird, but this is definitely worth it. The rest of the game, I'm just gonna speed run a little bit because the first few generations, those are actually the most like interesting to me a little bit. So let's look at the difference between end of generation 4 to the end of generation 5. And as you can imagine, as soon as you've hit this point in the game where you've gone complete God mode, which I would argue is generation 4, then with generation 5, 6 and 7, and then we're gonna close the game in 7, like just by having 3 or 4 generations of complete God mode, you can do so much with this. So I think you get the idea at this point. The only thing I want to point out with this generation is that I got a little bit of green tech synergy. Decomposes while enhances Venusian animals is kind of cool. And you might be thinking Venusian animals, that should be impossible at this point, but here is how the map looked at the end of generation 4, and now look at the end of generation 5. So when I picked up Venusian animals, I really tried to dedicate this whole generation to just pumping the Venus up to 18 as much as I could, because then I could play Venusian animals and play some of the other science tags in my hand. So let's go for end of generation 5 to end of generation 6. And yeah, like I said, at this point, it's of course completely insane. So if we look at the map, end of generation 5 compared to end of generation 6, now we're pretty close to closing the game. I think I could have actually closed the game in this generation if I wasn't also focused on getting so many VP, but of course I'm a greedy person, I also want the VP. And now finally the difference between end of generation 6 to end of generation 7. And there you go, this is like more cards than I play in a normal game of Terraforming Mars. And finally, let's look at the map, the end of generation 6 compared to the end of generation 7. As you can see, all the parameters has now been maxed out: the water, the oxygen, the temperature, and also the Venus. And worth noting, because I'm playing Venus and this is like a solo game, I should have done this solar phase or whatever it's called, where I can like world government phase, where I'm getting 1 terraform rating for free every generation, but I'm not getting it, the world government is actually getting it. But this whole phase I didn't actually do it because I kind of forgot about it. Now it's even harder for me to close the game. But as you can see, it's really not a problem. I had so many mega credits left over that even after closing all the parameters, I still could like fill up the map a decent amount with like cities and greeneries and stuff. And also want to point out, I didn't actually get a lot of asteroids, I didn't get a lot of heat production, I didn't get a lot of stuff so I could actually close the temperature. So I actually had to make a lot of standard project with asteroids. So like I think I made 7 or 8, so that's like more than 100 gold just to close the game with these standard projects. And it still wasn't a problem because I was so rich. At the end of generation 5, so at the start of generation 6, I had 55 mega credit production and also have 45 TR. So that's exactly 100 mega credits I actually got at the start of generation 6. And then at the end of generation 6, I actually had like 144 mega credits I believe I got at the start of generation 7. And here at the end of generation 7, I'm at 85 TR and 120 mega credits. So if I played another generation, I would have had more than 200 mega credits. In case you're wondering, I kind of wrote down the score here. I don't think it's important, but just worth noting, Venusian animals, decomposes, those two popped off, but that makes sense, right? Because I was able to play them so early. And then I got 3 Jovian amplifiers, and naturally with all this discount on Jovian tags, it's not a problem to play all of this Jovian stuff, so that's like a lot of points on Jovians as well. And then you might be thinking I'm lucky that I got 3 out of 4 Jovian amplifiers, but I actually also like drew 3/4 of the deck, so it makes sense to be honest. So it's 228 victory points in 7 generations, and once again this doesn't matter at all because this is I completely cheated. I chose my own starting deck, but it's just to show you how strong this type of synergy can actually be. But here are the fun stats. This is way more fun to talk about than actually the VP because this is like the fun stuff. So here to the left you can see the production I ended this game with. The 30 titanium production, that's a little bit misleading because I actually didn't have that much titanium production. It's just because in the last generation I played this Lunar Mining and I only played it like just because it's a cheap earth tag, so I wanted another card. That's pretty much it. But now we get to the good stuff. 156 cards played in this game, and then I looked at around 2/3 of the deck. It's a little bit less. It was definitely more than half, but the reason I look at so many cards, that's because of Pluto, that's because of Mars University, and it's also especially because of High Tech Lab. I ended up having 17 discounts on space tags, and the Vita Corporation actually ended up giving me 222 mega credits in this game because I played 74 cards which actually have a positive victory on top of it. And now look at this. I drew 37 cards off of Point Luna. I drew 30 cards off of Spin-off Department. I was able to rotate 28 cards due to Mars University. And then Olympus Conference got me 13 cards, and then AI Central is actually a lot worse than the others because it only drew me like 8 cards. But just to defend AI Central a little bit here, this is obviously because this is a completely God mode game, so it's not really a fair comparison. Normally AI Central is actually also like almost as good as the other cards, I would say. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. I hope this was still fun for you, even though this is like a big Theorycraft and it's not necessarily something you would see in a real game. But I still think the same ideas apply to normal games. Like if you want to see a normal game where I also have a lot of card draw and a lot of card discount, just watch the game I talked about before called The Power of Card Draw. I just really felt like I needed to make this video because I didn't really hammer home the fact that I think card draw plus discount card is so good. I hope at the very least you've gotten that impression from this video that this type of synergy is really impactful. And also Theorycraft is fun, man. So in the last video I showed you the other deck with like some user made content, and I said, well, if you want to, you can see if you can come up with a better deck than that. I'll give you the same challenge for this video. If you can come up with a fun deck that's almost as strong as this one, or maybe it's just fun in a different way, or it's very creative or something, then feel free to write it in the comments and I'll talk about it in the episode called Feedback. Thanks for watching.